Hi everyone, I hope you're well. In today's video, I'm back at the amazing Eve's Hall and I'm going to show you how I took this photograph. This shot is all about balancing the ambient light with our off-camera flash. So, let's crack on. So you may actually recognise this room from two of my previous videos, one being a shot that I did with my friends Demi and James using this mirror over here, which I'll link to that video up here, and also where I'm stood now is where I took the photograph where I shot through tin foil and had Demi here. But today I'm going to do something a little bit different. What I'm going to do is expose for these lamps. So as I mentioned in my off-camera flash tutorial video, the basis of any good off-camera flash photograph is to expose first of all for the ambient light or the highlights. So in this room, which is a beautiful room but it's relatively dark, the highlights are these lamps. So the first step for this photograph is I'm going to take a photograph where I expose for the lamps. So we'll do that now. I will be taking a photograph of the amazing Liv, but before Liv even comes into the photograph, I'm just going to get my composition right and also the exposure right. So again, what I'm trying to do here is expose for the lamps, but without blowing out the details in those lamps. And that's the trick. You want to retain the highlight detail, because the moment you blow the highlights, those highlights are gone forever. So be careful about not doing that. So I know already that my shutter speed is going to be capped at 200th of a second. That's because I don't want to go into high-speed sync. I'd also ideally like to be able to shoot wide open. I'm on my Sony 85mm 1.8 lens at the moment, and I'd like to be able to shoot it at 1.8. So we'll see if we can do that, because shooting at 1.8 is going to let in a lot of ambient light. That means that my ISO is going to be very low. So I'm going to put my ISO at 100, and let's just see what happens if I take this shot. That's actually good because I can afford to bring up the exposure slightly. So I'm going to do that by putting my ISO on 200. That's getting good now, and I think I might even bump it up a little bit more. ISO on 320, and that looks perfect. So as you can see on the screen now, that exposure is not blowing out any highlights, but it's going to give us a really nice background. So what I'm now going to do is bring Liv in, and we're going to pose her, and then I'm going to light her with a MagBox. So this is Liv, everyone. Thank you very much, Liv, for helping me with this shot. So I'm going to actually just sit there if that's okay. I want to actually just to face away with your body slightly. That's perfect. So what I'm going to do now is just take a couple of test shots to check my composition is good, and then we'll introduce our lighting. What I just need to do is just change the composition slightly by moving this lamp. Let's put that about there, I would say. Let's try that again. So I'm not worried about the posing or anything yet. Yeah, that looks good. Yeah. So I can see that my composition is good. So let's now introduce our off-camera flash. I'm going to use the MagBox. As I've mentioned many times before on my channel, the MagBox gives really beautiful light, because always remember that the bigger the light source, the softer the light will be. So this is obviously a very big light source compared to the size of a usual speed light. Plus, the closer the light, the softer the light will be as well. So what I want to do is obviously place the MagBox as close as I can to Liv without it appearing in the frame. And that's the key thing. That's going to give us really nice light then. I'm going to put on the focus diffuser. Let's just pop this on here. There we go. So again, I might reposition this, but I want to place it as close as possible to Liv without it being in the frame. So we'll put that there, and I'm going to put on a Godox V860 2 speedlight. The ambient is very low in this room, so that means that this flash doesn't need to work very hard. So I'm going to guess at my flash power, probably being the lowest flash power we can go to, just to see what that gives us as a kickoff. So I'm going to put this speedlight, which is speedlight A, on 128 power. That's the lowest power setting that I can go to. Let's just see what that does. Again, don't worry about this one, Liv, it's not counting. Beautiful. Right, so the flash power is still too strong. Even though it's on 128 power, it's too strong. But what the great thing is about the MagBox system is I can add on this 8x ND filter, which is just going to reduce the light more coming out of the speed light. So what I love about this system is you can just put this in without even taking off the diffuser. We can just put this in here, and it's on. So let's see what this does. Yeah, really good. So you can see the difference now is huge from what we had without the ND filter in the MagBox to when we do have the ND filter in the MagBox, to the point where I can actually increase the flash power now. So what I'm going to do now is go from 1/28th power to 1/64. Yeah, and that is perfect. So the light looks really nice now. Let's just work on the pose now. So, gosh, you just sort of slightly lean forward, Liv, if that's right, and just that's beautiful. Liv is brilliant at this. That's perfect, Liv. Really nice. Let's just warm up our white balance. I'm at 5,200. I'm going to warm up my Kelvin to 6,000. That's stunning. I'm going to keep you exactly where you are, Liv. I'm just going to move these lamps slightly. Again, when you're taking shots, it's always good to try and critique yourself as you're shooting. And for me, I think I can just slightly improve the composition. Let's take the same shot again. Remember, this shot is all about balancing the ambient light. In this case, the ambient light is the lamps to the flash power. And it's always good to see this shot in two layers. Layer 1 is the natural light. As I said before, that will be the lamps. Layer 2 is a speed light. And what we're trying to do is just balance that to get to a point where we're happy. Composition wise, that looks beautiful. Yeah, these are brilliant now. What I'm also going to do is actually just lower down my shutter speed because the lamps are flickering slightly. So I'm going to change my shutter speed to 1/80th. That's going to let in more ambient light, which means I might lower my ISO. No, that's good. Yeah, I'm really pleased with these now. Stunning, beautiful. And what we're just going to do now, for the very last shots, I'm already happy with what we've got. So if we stop this video now, I'll be well pleased. I'm just going to try changing my lens because I always think it's a good idea that once you've got a shot that you're happy with, it takes another minute to put on another lens and get a different shot. So those were taken on the Sony 85mm 1.8. I'm now going to put on the Canon 50mm 1.2. Obviously this is not a Sony native lens, so I use an adapter for this lens and I use the Sigma MC11. And it works really well. It still allows me to use eye autofocus, which is brilliant. So I'm going to shoot this wide open, so I might need to change the settings slightly because I'm now going to go to f1.2. It actually comes up as 1.3, but that's just because of a quirk with the camera, but it is wide open at f1.2. Needs to get a little bit closer. But the way it throws out the background is beautiful. Yeah, really good. But because we're now opened up the aperture, that's making the flash power appear a little bit brighter. So also letting in a little bit more natural light. So I'm going to drop my ISO from 320 to 160. See what that gives us. Beautiful. Excellent, thank you very much. So hope you found that video useful. Again, just to go through the steps, we exposed for the ambient light. In this room, the ambient light is the lamps. Once we've got our composition and our exposure where we want to be with the lamps, that's when we brought Liv in. We introduced a speed light. I've used the MagBox because, again, the bigger the light source, the softer the light, and I wanted to put the MagBox as close as possible to Liv because the closer the light source, the softer the light. So for portraits, you want to have a big light source and have that light source really close. And then once we did that, we just needed to tweak the settings slightly and then just get the pose right, which Liv did so well. So as always, I hope you've enjoyed this video. A massive thank you to Tony for filming. Huge thank you for Liv for doing such an amazing job with the posing and making the shot look as good as it does. So thank you very much again for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this video and I will see you next time.